if you go back 20 years, let's say, that brings you to 1992, who are some of the more charismatic athletes? And I'm not talking about athletes in general. I'm talking about superstar athletes. So who are some of the more charismatic superstar athletes that we've seen? Now, this entails talking, maybe endorsements, getting it done on the field, elite player in your sport, appeal off of it, maybe, fairly good looking, I suppose. So who fits that bill for you out there? You can weigh in as well. TSN Matthew on Twitter.com. Matthew at TSN690.ca. By the way, Seattle just kicking a field goal. So 17-7 Seahawks over the Bills. And here is my top 5. So here we go. We'll start with number 5. Floyd Mayweather Jr. Now, he's a guy who's a fast talker. He's fast in the ring. He's a fairly good-looking guy. And, other than that whole domestic situation, which was just abhorrent, obviously, spending time in jail, he's not a likable guy. But part of his shtick, shall we say, is being that unlikable guy. He recognized, I'm sure, early on that people root against him, and so he plays to it and helps with the pay-per-view buys. People want to see his opponent beat him. That's the way he does it. And so he's number 5 on my list.
Floyd Mayweather is a super charismatic guy. If I had $1 for every time somebody came up to me and talked about hard work and dedication, which is, I think, a catchphrase that Floyd Mayweather really made popular on his, the HBO series and stuff. They get in together and they say hard work, dedication. And he's really made that very, very popular. And he's a very, well-spoken guy. And you either love him or hate him, and that, I think, is what helps him be so charismatic,
and bring in the pay-per-view money.
Exactly. He's such a polarizing character, but he's interesting to watch. It's like that picture or painting of Kramer that they did. He's hideous, yet I can't look away.
There you go. Yeah. Mayweather, number 5 on my list. Number 4, Jeremy Roenick. Now, not the number 1 superstar in the NHL, but the closest thing that sport had during his tenure of an outspoken guy who would be willing to, put his name on something. What comes to mind is obviously a bloody face in the locker room. One of his post games, I believe, with the Flyers at the time, telling the NHL to wake up because of an incident that happened to him. Never shying away from meeting the media. Of course, there's that memorable dance number he did in an LA Kings uniform on the ice. So a guy who's routinely on off the record. So to me, charismatic, top 10 in the NHL scoring a few times. So to me, I would say on my top 5 list the last 20 years. And a former Shark, Dave Simon's old favorite hockey team before he abandoned the sport.
I never thought of him as charismatic. I don't really
see.
These hockey guys aren't the most charismatic of athletes.
All right.
And I believe that's a factor in why they're perhaps 4th or 5th most popular sport in North America. Just not enough charismatic guys.
They're boring. They're not like, basketball players or football players or fighters. Hockey players,
And they're not even playing now.
Yeah, they can stay away. That's all right.
All right, number 3 on my list is Andre Agassi, a guy who was able to reinvent himself a couple of times. Obviously, the long hair and then shaving his head, marrying Steffi Graf, the endorsements, the commercials, the Nike stuff, the camera stuff. Was it Canon?
I don't know. Brooke Shields.
Brooke Shields dated Brooke Shields for a while. Was he married to her?
I don't
know.
Was
he dating her?
Whatever.
Can't recall. All right.
What's the difference?
Either way, it was good for him. Yeah. Obviously, and a good champion as well. Very likable. He was a guy who was fiery, but still likable. Not a lot of people rooted against Andre Agassi, which is kind of a fine line when you're popular and you get endorsements. Everyone remembers when he won Wimbledon, collapsing to the ground. So he's on my list over the last 20 years of more charismatic athletes. Any arguments on Agassi on the list?
Agassi was a superstar. A lot of people loved Agassi, but a lot of people at the same time, I think, really loved that Pete Sampras.
Yeah.
It was always that feud, Agassi and Sampras. And
the two Americans.
You can't argue with Agassi. Agassi was a superstar. He transcended the sport of tennis. He was bigger than the game.
All right, number 2 on my list. Shaquille O'Neal. I just love how the announcers used to say his name, the home teams in the NBA. But Shaq has to be on that list, the guy who's done it all, rap, acting, not so well, but did them nonetheless, video games, a guy who loves to make fun of himself as well, interacts with the fans, a star in every market. And early on, people didn't like him out of college. He's overhyped. But at the end of the day, when he retired, not a lot of people disliked Shaquille O'Neal. Couldn't hit a free throw, but it didn't matter. He's got the rings to show for it. He went to the finals with a couple of other teams as well. To me, Shaquille O'Neal has to be on any list over the last 20 years, and now an entertaining analyst on TNT for basketball as well.
Shaq was the man. He's another one of those guys, bigger than the game, stepped outside, Shaq Fu, Kazam,
Shaq Fu,
Icy Hot, whatever he's doing, it's big time for Shaq. And you can't not love big Shaquille O'Neal. He's the best.
Isn't he his girlfriend or engaged to a chick who was one of the girls
Hoops.
on
she was on
Flavor Flav's show.
Flavor of Love.
Yeah, that's it.
She won. She won the first season of Flavor of Love.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're together anymore. They had some sort of dispute.
Yeah, but my favorite Shaq moment, actually in his final season with the Boston Celtics, at one point he decided to just go out to Boston Common and pose as a statue, not moving for a couple hours, letting people come and take pictures in front of him. It's just strange.
I like Shaq. He's got one song with Biggie that was actually quite good.
Oh, really?
And my favorite Shaq moment was when he asked Kobe how his bottom tasted. I'm not going to say what Shaq said because it's still early in the day on AM radio. But, the rap, Kobe, how does my taste?
Right.
After he won the championship, after leaving the Lakers with the Miami Heat, rapping in the club. I thought that was awesome. The Kobe Bryant diss rap from Shaq after winning the NBA championship. Classy move. I loved it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. And then the number one on my list is Deion Sanders. Prime time. Nothing that he couldn't do well. Baseball, football. I remember, obviously, I believe it was a Sunday, and Deion Sanders is playing football. Then he takes a helicopter and lands to go play with the Atlanta Braves in the same day. Deion Sanders brought electricity to the cornerback position. Prior to Deion Sanders, there were some pretty darn good corners, but prime time brought it. When he brought it to the end zone, he had his primetime dance, which has been imitated several times by other cornerbacks since Deion Sanders. Returning kicks as well. He had his, obviously, a very small career as a rapper. Must Be the Money. Anybody remember that song? It wasn't too bad.
I don't even remember
that.
Yeah,
Must Be the Money.
A lot of weird
Maybe we
rap.
should play it. He was on SNL, actually.
Maybe not.
Almost committing suicide, crashing his car, reinventing himself as a devout, a Christian of sorts. But a tremendous NFL analyst, still respected by the players today, and then came out of retirement after a couple of years to play 1 year with the Ravens, and he was still effective. Prime time to me, Deion Sanders has got to be number one on the list. Anybody have any here in the studio that maybe I didn't mention, maybe an MMA guy? For me, that a guy that didn't make the list, I had Allen Iverson close. Didn't like him, but, practice and his endorsements and playing hard on the field, or on the court, rather, close for me.
Who was bigger than Michael Jordan, though? I think top five.
Was he charismatic, though?
Oh, yeah. Space Jam? Are you kidding me? No one will ever forget about Space Jam. No, really? I think you may be a little bit too old, but when I was a kid, Space Jam was it. Michael Jordan was the man, and
I
still
saw Space
is.
Jam. I saw Space Jam. I was in CJEP. I remember.
Yeah, see, I was younger than that. I was a little kid. I was like 7, 8 years old when Space Jam came out, and I loved it. Michael Jordan, to me, is the biggest athlete superstar that I've seen in my lifetime.
He wasn't an outspoken guy. He didn't. He wasn't funny.
He didn't need to be, though. He was huge. The commercials that he did, off the post into here with the basketball and all that stuff. Michael Jordan was a superstar, man.
I'd probably have Charles Barkley up there as well. Just never short on quotes, and even now as an analyst, whether you like him or don't like him, it's always interesting what he has to say.
I think you're looking at these guys from a 2012 perspective. Shaq, Charles Barkley, yeah, they're big now, but you want to talk about the 90s, you want to talk about
Agassi was 90s.
When these guys were in their prime. Michael Jordan was bigger than Shaq. He was bigger than anybody. I mean, they still talk about Michael Jordan.